Salutations, my fellow dudes and dudettes, and welcome back to Tales of Phantasia. Once again, I know I'll be explaining everything next part. Trust me on this one. Anyway, last time we finally got the swords together to create the Eternal Sword. We had some reconnaissance with the rest of our party. It was a really nice, meaningful scene. And we've made Dowse's castle appear, but like most RPGs, once you at the very least make the final area of the game appear, it's time for a complete 180. It's time for some side questing. Oh boy! But there are 3 side quests in particular we're doing. The first one, which we are doing today, is probably the easiest. Well, I guess the third one would be the easiest because it would essentially be the shortest one. But this one, you want to go to Freezekill. You want to talk to this person, something Graham. I don't remember his first name off the top of my head. Alexander, I think it was. Alexander Graham. I said Graham. I tend to say that a lot. So basically, we find him, he's like, hey, can I have a moment of your time? You're like, okay, sure. He essentially tells you that, he gives you a diary, as, the text says. It's my father's old log of where the treasures were kept, secret codes, etc. Mostly boring pirate stuff, secret codes. What's so boring about pirates? This one that caught my eye. With Fenrir at your left and Odin to your back, there, the true treasure can be found. Which means you can only really do this side quest when you acquire Fenrir and Odin and acquire the Eternal Sword and all that jazz. Which is why this side quest wasn't available until now. So basically, Alexander is sending us on this little fetch quest, essentially. And all the footage you're seeing is me just going to each area. Whenever you find the right spot to land in with your airbirds, the screen will sort of like fade to black and will pan you to an area on that piece of island. Whether it's a beach, a peninsula, forest, etc., you will find these things. Essentially, we are being sent on a fetch quest. All you're going to be seeing is me showing where everything is. There are some items of interest. The whale meat's a pretty good food source. I don't think it's as good as the mackerel, but it's good enough at the very least. What do we got here? Silver cape. It's an accessory for your mages. Not very useful anymore. Now, there is one treasure in particular of interest that we need to obtain. In order to do that, I'm sorry. This side quest essentially requires us to get that treasure and bring it back to Alexander. All the other treasure we find, we are allowed to keep. It is ours. And that's pretty awesome. Blue line shield. It's pretty good. I think you can... Yeah, I believe the blue line shield is something you can immediately equip on a class. It's a new shield for him. And I think it's better than the rare one we have already. I think you lose the resistance to the magics, the elements, though. I forget which one the rare shit covers, but whatever. Anyway, you want to go from Ymir Forest to this this small part right here. Again, this is literally a fetch quest. That's all this part is, and if you don't find this interesting, well, you could probably just skip this part entirely and watch the next one, because the next one's going to be much more interesting. And more than twice as long. This part is, I think, roughly 18 minutes long. The next part's at least 39. More on that later. ourselves a dark seal. It's pretty nice. I forget what the dark seal does though. I know it does something useful. I thought I had to land there, I'm sorry. This tends to be quite confusing because, assuming you're not following my guide, you could easily get lost if you're just trying to, follow, like, a walkthrough or something, because the information can be tricky sometimes. I've actually gotten stuck a couple times because I wasn't exactly sure as to where to go. Alright, so from Ari Village, just want to sail, was it westward? And you'll come to this forest, land here, and there's a few chests in here as well. First, we got more whale meat. A lot of these chests are just whale meat, just to let you know that right now. A lot of this stuff is just whale meat. So, nothing outstanding. There is one particular thing we really want for Clarth specifically. So you're going to want to keep that in mind. Alright, now north of the cave that leads to Dowse's castle, you want to go up to this forest. For some reason it's sort of daytime, even though the overworld was still like dusk at the very least. So also some of the chests, like in the forest section specifically, they could be a real pain in the neck because they could be hidden behind trees. Also, this is a very important item right here, the Saphira. It increases gold and XP by 10%. However, if you use a room bottle on it, it increases it all by 20%. This is a permanent upgrade. Whereas in later games, it becomes an equipable item. Which you could say isn't as good as it is in this game, but the effectiveness is much more. Because, like, in Tales of Phantasia, the most prominent Tales of game I can think of, the Saphira increases gold and XP. Or is it just gold? I forget. If it's both, then it's by 50%, and if you use a blue Saphira, it doubles everything you get. I think I scared those birds away accidentally. Whoops. Hyper Gauntlet, yes! Equip that on a quest immediately, it's awesome! Increases the defense, it's great. I guess if you really don't want to lose the resistance to those elements, fire, earth, wind, and water, I just thought about something. If the great Avatar were to fight quests with all that rare equipment, they wouldn't be able to do anything. I mean, I guess if they mastered like steel and lightning, which apparently was a thing in the show, I guess that could be done. Because I don't think Kless in particular has any resistances to those. I know Clarth definitely does in the form of all those rings we get throughout the game. I wonder if he gives one of those to Miranda by the end of it. We'll never know because, like, in the continuity of, like, this game. This is, the dress we were looking for. Rose's dress. That's what we need to bring back to Alexander, but we're not exactly done this fetch quest. Because we've got plenty more chests to get, plenty more treasure to find. So yeah, as I said, the Saphira increases your XP and gold by 10%. Make sure you use a room bottle on it so you can get that 20% increase. And it is permanent, you don't have to equip it on anyone, it is there, ready to go. Alright, now that item in particular, it's kind of interesting. I never use it. As a matter of fact, we're getting fairly close to the end of the game, so I guess the only real place you could probably use it is in one of the final dungeons of the game. Or I guess more specifically, one of the optional dungeons in the game. The next part, actually. Makes your makes a party member immune to common spells, which means the spells that you see quite often, whether it's acid rain and tier 1 or tier 2 magic, I believe, or at the very least status inflicting spells. So I think the Gorgon's Eye would count as one of those, because we've seen that quite a lot. So we would be completely resistant to that. So that's pretty cool. I'm not sure why the item isn't, why the item picture is like the item profile is a pickaxe. It's kind of weird to me. Alright, now this chest is really hard to find. It's like behind what, there we go, it's right there. It took such a long time. I don't think that weapon is even worth a darn. Especially, I don't even remember what the weapon was. I remember it not being very useful though. I don't use the room bottle on it at the very least. There is a couple weapons we get in the next part that actually exceed the Eternal Sword's power, which is awesome, including Kless's ultimate weapon, and I sort of screw that up for sure. Get some whale meat, elixir, a drum set. Okay, now the drum set I think I mentioned earlier in the Let's Play. The drum set, it doesn't really do anything. You can sort of play with it, through the menu. I think you could use the buttons to, like, play the actual drums. I think it's just for shits and giggles. It doesn't really add anything to the game, so I didn't feel like it was necessary to show. Unless if there was, like, some sort of secret I could show off, but it's just kind of there if you want to play around with it. A soup pot. I think that's just more food supplies. Jade ring. Jade rings are always awesome, but I think we're covered at this point. I think I have more than enough jade rings, I think. Not really sure. Anyways, moving on from what used to be Midgard. Yeah, in the future, Midgard is completely wiped out. I'm not sure if Dallas sort of just destroyed it in the aftermath of the fight we had with him in the past. Like, because if you recall, we fought him and he sort of just ran away. Am I to assume he destroyed it during the past or the present time, and that's why it's just non-existent in the future? Okay, this is weird. This island in particular, it's nothing but sake, and it's like 9 of these chests. Sake, I don't think actually does anything. I mentioned that, we got a yellow cake, previously. I forget where it was, but we did get the yellow cake, and I mentioned that we're going to be using it later. I'm sorry, I lied to you guys. I did not find a use for the yellow cake, and by this point, which the game is finished, most definitely, the sake had no purpose either. Okay, now this S flag is awesome. Also, it's a reference to to an Namco game. I think that's also Ridge Racer. I don't remember though. I think it was Ridge Racer. For some reason, this game really likes to make you remember Ridge Racer. It's pretty interesting. It's not a bad game though. It's kind of fun. Very, very short game, I guess, all things considered, but that was like in like the old days, so it only makes sense that they're essentially just short burst games. I'm surprised they didn't try to reference Pac-Man at all, because they didn't reference Pac-Man, period. They referenced it in Tales of Phantasia, but only in the form of like a statue. Alright, but enough about the references, Namco references. The S flag itself, if you use it in battle when your party member is knocked out, it is a full revive as it would be in Pokemon. Brings them back to life with full HP and TP, ready to go. It's awesome. There is only one of these in the game, So you really need to find a good time to use it, because once you use it, that's it. You ain't getting another one. And as far as I'm concerned, there's no way to clone this thing. There's like no cheat code of any sort. I mean, I guess if you could find the necessary codes, like actual replay codes or whatever, I guess doesn't stop you from making 999 of these things and be good for the rest of the game. Assuming you do that, like, way before you're supposed to find the only one. Not to say that it sort of breaks the game in half, because, you can't necessarily use it if all your party members are knocked out, and the S flag, I'm not sure, I didn't use it, spoiler warning, I did not go out of my way to use it. Also, the blue lantern and the blue candle. I don't think I use those either. I don't know what they do, so they're probably not important. But I don't use the S flag at all. I never found an instance where it was very useful. And even like in the next dungeon, the next part, there was nowhere I was able to comfortably use it and not regret it, because whenever you know what, I'll explain that later when we get to that. Anyway, that's all that's everything we acquired. That book or weapon I believe we acquired is the Namco gear. That's another reference, but just to the company, I guess. That is Clarth's ultimate ultimate weapon. The Namco gear. It's awesome. It's very powerful. And that's all I have to say about it. Also, I'm not sure how the S flag works, since I never used it, because the only instances I know of it are in, again, I believe Ridge Racer, Star Fox Assault, which you use those to unlock a game known as Xevious, and Super Smash Bros. 4, which can give you a free stock, but it takes a while to use. And based off my experience with that game, I figured that using the S flag takes a lot of time. And this is one game that you don't want to have to rely on. This is one game where relying on items that take a while is never a good idea, because it's a very archaic game, and you don't want these things to happen. Granted, not everything is as terrible as it seems, because again, as I said, Mint can revive people, and it's much more useful than some of the other some of the white mages in the later games, where it takes a while for them to use it, or it just takes a lot of TP for them to use. But now that we gave the dress to Alexander, you can essentially go through everything you've acquired at this point, assuming you didn't do it between getting all the treasures. So again, the blue line shield, the mithril plate, and I think that's it. I think we're good at this point. Okay, there we go. That's what it is. Alright, thank you. I remembered I left this in. The Dark Seal. Your experience will increase by half of what you already usually earn, which is 50%. But quests cannot use skills at all. Just period. If you use a rune bottle on it, it will become the Nightmare Seal, which will double your experience. I'm trying to remember what the negative effect was, because it was really apparent. I'll probably remember it next part. Anyways, next time on Tales of Phantasia, now that we got this little unneedy side quest done, it's time to head back to Moria Gallery. Oh boy, how fun. Until then, I get a juice. Oh no.